können aber, ja, genau.
Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar with our partner Qonto and Holger from the Uplink community. I'm very happy to have them here today, and we will talk about how to scale up your business. Before we dive into the topic and get like great insights, I just want to give you like a short intro what Uplink is doing, and and we will care about some organizational questions and how you have the possibility to get rid of all your questions in the Q&A part. So we are, as Uplink, we're a network of IT freelancers, and we are an alternative to classical IT recruiters. So if you don't know Uplink yet, feel free to register and check us out on our website. I will post it later in the chat. While the first theoretical input of the guys, you have the possibility to already get rid of your questions. You can use that, therefore, the toolbar here down there via ask a question, and you also have the possibility to upvote the question of the other people. So it's pretty easy, and then in the end, for like the hot topic, we will find an answer of all your questions. If you have any like technical problems, or I mean, if you can't hear me, then probably you don't hear what I'm saying. But if you have like any technical issues, you can just text in the chat, and then we will find a solution for that. So now I would say like the stage is yours. Maybe you, Torben, want to give like a short intro about Qonto and about yourself, and then I'm really up for diving into the topic.
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Hi, everyone. I'm Torben. I'm the country manager for Qonto, which is a European B2B FinTech. What we do is we're a finance solution for all European companies. We focus on small and medium-sized companies, freelancers, startups, and founders. And we offer a business bank account along with some tools and features to simplify your finance management. Very happy to be here. Qonto has grown quite significantly. We started with our first idea of our founders in 2016, who back then already had founded a company and realized that business banking at that time sucked, and they wanted to create their own solution. And that's why they set out to build their own in 2016, launched their first beta in 2017. And since then, we've seen growth across markets. We're in 4 countries right now: France, Italy, Spain, and Germany. I'm very happy to be here to talk about the first steps of Qonto, but also about the later stages, as well as our market entry into the German market, because I believe Germany can also be seen kind of as a startup within a startup.
Great. Okay, Holger, I think the word is yours now.
Okay, let's say, I'm not that good with technology. Okay, here we go. Right, hi, my name is Holger Steinhauer from Steinhauer.software, and I'm at the very beginning of this whole adventure Tom just explained. And right now I'm making my money with freelancing work, and this is how I found Uplink, and I'm happily on there. And currently building out a agency for individual software development for small and medium-sized businesses and startups. Yeah, that's pretty much me.
Great. So maybe you already said it, Torben, when it kind of comes to the first step, maybe you can kind of tell us more about the frame from like the business idea and how the whole scaling process went, especially like in the beginning.
Absolutely. So from our side, I think Alex and Steve, the two co-founders, they met each other in school already, in high school, and then met each other later and realized, okay, they want to start something. They founded their own company together, which was Smoke.io, and they exited it successfully after 3 years. But really had this realization, okay, there's a need in the market for a business banking solution. So really, the need that they experienced themselves was first. Then they set out and kind of sketched the very first version of what they think they would have liked, and kind of also mapped out what they didn't like about their existing solution. For example, the customer support, was really not up to the standard. For example, they needed to wait 2 weeks to just and information on when they wanted to send something in US dollars, like what the exchange rate would be. So it was really, really difficult for them. And they said, okay, these are the things that we want to change, and let's start. I think what Alex and Steve did really well at the beginning is to identify certain potential issues. They went really iteratively and just did basically MVP style at the very beginning, which is really hard in the fintech scene sometimes. And what they really leveraged, and we can talk about that as well, is on the product side. They worked a lot with the build versus buy decision over time. So, for example, we started with a partner for the core banking system, which was Trezor at that time. Many fintechs still use it. If you see neobanks in Germany, a lot of them work with Solaris Bank, which is great for scalability. At the same time, you just plugged into an existing system and you're just the outer layer. So at some point, we decided to transition to our own core banking system. So that's just an example to give you of to realize at the beginning, okay, what do I want to do at the very beginning versus where do I maybe want to use another partner's service at the beginning, and then transition maybe later if I have the capability. Kind of also planning your marriage, but also your breakup after a while. Yeah.
What would you say? Sorry, please go ahead.
No, I think what in terms of, so that's from a product side. I think from a sales side, what Alex and Steve did at the very beginning is really leverage their friends and family at the very beginning. So I think when the first salesperson joined, who then became the head of sales, there were already more than 150 clients. So they really leveraged their friends and family network at the beginning to get feedback, but also to just show something and to work with it and get the regular feedback that you need to basically build the solution. So that was really interesting when I talked to the head of sales at the very early days. Keep in mind, I wasn't there at the very beginning. He said, yeah, it was basically knocking on startups' doors, and the aim at the very beginning was, let's get really sexy big startups as customers, so we can say these are our customers. It didn't really work that way because our product was not ready for bigger startups, and that's what we realized at the beginning. So we changed our strategy on that sense. We went more on an inbound approach instead of outbound from a sales perspective, and we realized that we already had a good website at that point, and we realized, okay, there's some people that come on the website that start the register process, and in banking, it's kind of, you need KYC, KYB process. So the onboarding process is not just one click. It can be relatively smooth, 10 minutes, but it's not one click. And some drop, and we should leverage them for basically when they drop, we should be able to contact them. So we ended up building this inbound sales funnel, contact sales form when the customer or the prospect kind of filled out a contact sales form, as well as dropping in the register. And that really propelled our sales at the beginning and our growth over time. So that was it. From a marketing perspective, I think the key at the very beginning was first to get the website in a good shape, and then kind of work on the performance marketing side of it and test different channels. So we were completely open to different channels, but over time, of course, optimized. In our case, it really needs to fit your case as well. So in our case, it's kind of people don't change their bank account usually if you just show a banking solution. It's usually high intent. You tend to look for a business bank account and you Google for it, for example. So that's why certain keywords, for example, are quite competitive in that space. Yeah. So that's on that point. And I think in Germany particularly, I think it's another example of kind of how we launched, basically with. So we looked at it from an ambiguity spectrum and said, okay, where are we? Is it like low ambiguity, in which phase we would have had like a super phased development approach with the market entry? Or is it high ambiguity, in which case we would have started with experiments and so on? So it's kind of in the middle, because we knew that German customers would have somewhat different needs than the French customers. And by the way, we started in all 3 countries pretty much at the same time, in all international countries, to kind of facilitate learnings between the countries. And what was interesting there in Germany was we launched with really like the minimum that was legally okay, but it wasn't, to be honest, really adapted to the German market. So for example, we still had a French IBAN when we launched, which you might get away with. Revolut still does it, for example, but we realized IBAN discrimination still exists in Europe, even though technically on paper it shouldn't. That's when we realized, okay, we need to change this, for example. But to be honest, it was a good approach. It was between kind of high ambiguity experimental approach, low ambiguity, very phased planned approach. It was in the middle. So I would say it was the MVP kind of style, where we said, okay, this is kind of the minimum that we can enter the market with, and then let's iterate afterwards. I think the more important part was learning, listening to customers, and going from there. So yeah, that's how we ultimately started in the German market. I mean, today we're at Series D. We just raised it. We raised 486 million euros last week officially. We're at 220,000 customers now, and Germany is our fastest growing market, so we want to invest more in it. Still, what I can say for freelancers and for smaller companies is what we see with freelancers on that side is really reducing the risk when you launch kind of your minimum viable product. Is really about defining the target population very clearly at the beginning. So focus on the narrow market, I would say. Kind of like, I don't know, then the next thing is minimizing the number of platforms that you're on, like kind of like Instagram only did iOS at the very beginning. So kind of don't go overboard, and then maybe do things that don't scale at the beginning. So just like, I would say, I think Uber Eats at the beginning tested their hypotheses by just pre-buying the meals and then delivering them instead of
kind of still like that
right away.
Yeah,
it's kind of it actually
so many discounts there, it's unbelievable sometimes.
Yeah. So I think the mistakes that we've seen in the market, and also sometimes what we did, is kind of mistiming the expansion. So either you wait too long or you go too early. Can both be the case, and we can talk about that. It's about pouring too many resources into something. So it can be that, I mean, if you're a freelancer, then that might not be the case. But if you have a team and you focus too much on certain aspects, there's really too many chefs in the kitchen. Or you can be too early in pushing for growth, kind of investing in performance marketing, for example, when you don't have the product market fit. Because at the end of the day, you really want stable retention, you want stable growth, and you want a decent product usage, and that's what we're aiming for. So that's what you need to discuss. But I feel like I talked a lot about Qonto at the later stage. Perhaps we can talk about the earlier stages, or what you are interested in.
Joe, what would you say, like, especially because, I mean, that Qonto is like 100% like a financial product. What are like the main challenges comparing to like starting, for example, we're like a service company. It's of course much easier to launch something in an MVP style, as you already said. What were like the additional challenges because it's like a financial product? What would you say?
Yeah, at the beginning, of course, it was also regulatory. So you needed a certain license. Everything needed to be set up. So you needed to really understand. We needed to really understand. Okay, how do the different teams develop up to a certain point with how many customers? So we knew that we can. From a compliance perspective, for example, it's still okay to not have like a perfect risk monitoring system up until that many number of customers and so on. So that was one part of it. The other part of it was the kind of build versus buy decisions that we had. It was about scaling the team, especially above 100 people. That's when you really hit a spot and you realize, like in our case, it was we all of a sudden spend 80% of our time just reworking stuff instead of spending 80% of the time delivering value. And we said, okay, that was around about 2018, 2019. And we realized, okay, we need to change something. It's really not working this way. There were too many silos, too much. The people growth ultimately resulted in kind of different teams not working at the same speed at the same time. And we needed to change that. For example, tech and product didn't work at the same time. So the product team maybe had a good idea, did some specifications, but then it ended up waiting in the supermarket too long. And then the tech team, when it grabbed it, the specifications were already too old. So that's just an example. And we transferred that knowledge, really focused on lean management, focused on reducing waste. And over time, we really reduced that problem. And it really, really helped us, not just in the product and tech team, but also in the growth team.
Great. So you kind of did that through like a coach or external support, or you got like all these, basically it was just like all the learnings the team made, and then you did like an internal workshop, or how can I imagine?
That's a good question. I think Alex and Steve, the co-founders, they were already quite fans of this approach, basically inspired by the Toyota production system, and they were really a fan of a French author of a book called Learning to Scale, and they invited him a couple of times. So I think that was kind of but it wasn't an external consulting firm or anything. It was really about finding our own way to see how it works for us, because it's quite particular to do it both on the tech and product side, but also on the growth team side, basically in all the company. So yeah, that's what we did over time, and it really helped us. It helped us to put basically the learning of the people at the heart of it, and not. So we also reduced churn of employees in that sense, and which is a big problem, especially when you grow that fast. People don't identify with the organization anymore because it's completely changing every 6 months, and to maintain that day zero mentality is very difficult.
Absolutely, I can imagine, especially I think when there are like already measures, because people are working in different pace, and I think you really need to be high committed to get into that, right? And then just like everything, and maybe all the things you used to if you just spend like a short notice in the company. So maybe going a bit back like to the early stage, you were already saying like there was a turning point when there were like 100 employees. Can you give us like kind of a time period from like there were the two founders and then we were already like 100 employees, how fast that whole process went?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
I mean, like how much time it took, like from that small team of the two founders having the idea to become like a company with 100 employees, because you were already saying it went pretty fast.
Yeah, I think at the beginning it was really just the two for a couple of months. Then they raised, I think they raised some pre-seed funding from smaller investors. And then they had a team, I think, of 10 people that really focused on building building a first version, and that again took until 2017, and then it was officially launched already in 2017. There were a couple of financing rounds after that. Our last Series C was in 2 years ago, so it was in January 2020, and before that it was basically relatively regularly. So yeah, we started out with a smaller team, then a lot of tech and product hires after that, because we needed that, and build the first version. I think the first version was not that difficult and long to build. It was more. It was basically, the difficulty was more to not go overboard with a lot of features, but really focus on the very what do you really need to provide the experience, and to go from there and extend afterwards. So actually the challenge was not to offer too much at the beginning, but we knew, of course, certain things that we couldn't do, like financing, for example. You need a bank license for it.
Of course.
Yeah, but certain things we kind of decided, okay, let's do it later, but let's do it really well. Yeah.
Okay, great. And that probably also kind of, to get back to the situation you're at in Holger, you're quiet at the beginning, and probably also thinking how to scale up and how to hire more people, especially in the early stage. What would you say are your main challenges right now, or your thoughts about that theme?
It's actually it's already in my mind as kind of a question to you, Tom, because I know how it is. There's a small difference. I mean, Qonto has this one product which has sub products in it, and as an agency, it's a little bit different. But there is still, how is it when you were looking at hiring people? What kind of forecast did you do, or what kind of planning went into? Because if at the very beginning it's okay, I don't have anyone, or I just have 1, 2, 3 people, but I want to attract more projects or more customers, whatever the goal is. Then we have this kind of hand and egg issue. It's I need more people to do the projects, but in order to do to have more people, I need more projects. So you have to kind of juggle this, and I love it how one of my good friends says he just started hiring more people, because if he wouldn't do it, he wouldn't have this kind of pressure behind him to find more projects. But then at the same time, that you need the money for it. So it's interesting, because this is what I'm looking at the moment, and I would love to hear how you handled it, or how you remember, or you were told.
Yeah, it's a mix. It's a mix. I can tell you for the German market how it is. So there it's kind of more from the project side, and then I see how much I need to hire at the moment, and I also look from a sales forecast, and I say, okay, if that's the target and we want to sign that many, and we have that many leads, then I need that many salespeople. So actually now we're at a stage where it's a bit easier to do, but at the very beginning, you're right, it was actually the chicken and egg problem. And I think the way Alex and Steve did it was, first of all, they were relatively prudent at the beginning in terms of do we need more people on it. They really focused on having a very focused group at the beginning, because you of course have these kind of different intervals where it's easier to work together, and then all of a sudden you have departmental thinking, or you need more management, and all of a sudden you need a mission, vision, and so on. So that's actually difficult at the very beginning. Everyone is in the same room, and you don't need to think about communication rituals, because everyone hears everything anyway. But when you get to 100 people, all of a sudden you're on one floor, and you have different departments and so on. So actually at the beginning, they were quite aware of this and cautious. And over time, they just knew what their next milestones would be that they wanted to achieve, and what would be kind of the minimum people that they needed to hire. At the same time, of course, they also knew that basically if this really were to take off, they need more people. And also at the same time, there's still a bit of uncertainty. Some roles are difficult to fill. They take some time. You don't have the talent acquisition team yet to do it. So actually, there's a couple of things that come into play here. Also in my case, from the market, we're not at the stage yet where I have dedicated talent acquisition. We do have it now, but at the very beginning, we didn't have that, and that was actually difficult for me because I knew, okay, I really need to prioritize my roles because it will take a long time to find someone unless it's someone coming in and wanting to work for us. So yeah, it's really difficult, and especially in the German market at the moment when there's a lot of money going around, and depending on the roles, every country manager, every founder that I talk to in Germany at the moment, people are short, and especially on the sales side, a lot of people are needed, and for some reason, that's all I hear. Okay, how do you do it? What do we do? And that seems to be the main challenge at the moment. Yeah.
And that's so interesting, talking about growing, maybe a short exchange there, growing like a business development team. What was there? I don't know, when was the point where you were like, okay, now I can build actively a team of X people, like after how many times? What would you say?
So in Qonto globally, I think we measured it by number of customers and kind of said, okay, like so that, now we have product market, like now we could say it's product market fit, because at the very beginning, the first 100 clients were relatively easy. Like I said, it was friends and family. Of course, that in itself is an achievement by them to have that many that actually sign up. I also read somewhere, okay, like don't listen to your friends and family when they give you feedback about the product, because it's all going to be great because they like you, but they're not going to give you honest feedback. Actually we said, okay, like if we have 1,000 customers, that's already an achievement. If we have 10,000, then we can talk about, okay, this looks like it has traction, and this looks like product market fit, and we can invest a lot, and also reach out to investors in that sense, and do it. And then basically when you go then to 100,000, that's again another challenge. But really, yeah, it's interesting how you define product market fit, and it of course really depends on the context that you're in which industry you're in, B2C, B2B, if you're direct to consumer, I don't know. You can also have product market fit with your Amazon brand, I don't know, FBA. It's all possible, right? But it's depending on what you're trying to build and how much money you need. And I just suggest not to invest a lot of money on marketing before you think you have reached product market fit, and really think about it well, how you define it, if you've really reached product market fit.
And an interesting point, which is also quite, well, I'm curious, sorry, because so I'm using a lot of freelancers to fill peaks, obviously, and also to fill gaps when it comes to really specific niche knowledge. So what is your, from Qonto's side, what is your experience with freelancers, especially maybe seen across the 3 different countries? Because I know there are differences, but I would be keen on knowing how you handle it.
Yeah, no, it's a great question, because actually we do work with freelancers, and actually we have quite a lot of freelancers that we work with regularly. It's something that, for several reasons, actually, if you're on a niche, if you need very specific knowledge, it sometimes is the only way to do it. Second of all, like for example, if we talk about I don't know, integrations, like we were working on, okay, how can we integrate partners faster? And there's new solutions out there to do that, to automate that more in terms of API integration. And there's certain experts on it, and they only work freelancing. It's just like it's a fact nowadays. There's more and more freelancers, and people don't want to work on a permanent contract anymore. So you just have to deal with it. The second thing is it's really not such a big difference for us in that sense. So you might have an external email address, but really in terms of everything else, there's no need from an organizational perspective, and that has even increased since the lockdowns and everything. So like every company basically had to look at themselves and look at, okay, how do we communicate together? And having freelancers that might work remotely is really not an issue. So like, why wouldn't you do it? It's just a matter of what can you afford, right? Freelancers sometimes for the employer, I mean, depending on how you calculate it, might be expensive if it's an expert, more expensive than a permanent contract. But all in all, it might be the same actually. So yeah.
And it's short time, right? Because it's like, especially when it is niche knowledge, you need it now, and then you have like this initial cost, but it's for a foreseeable amount of months or weeks, however large, and then you can still go back to the freelancer because he's still there, but he doesn't need to be paid like every month for as long as he's employed. So yeah, interesting.
That's true, but at the same time, as an organization, you need to be careful, because if you're not careful, then all of a sudden 50% of your organization consists of freelancers, and I've seen these kind of startups, and all of a sudden, like, then you really need to be careful about your culture and how it develops, because then you have an even higher fluctuation, and it's kind of like, at the same time, if you have a freelancer, like what we would like to do is internalize after time, and like if the freelancer wants it. But if you don't do that ever, then it shows a lack of commitment as well from our side, I think.
Okay, that's very interesting. Because like from the client side, I can, and also from the freelance side, I totally get that need that clients are like, oh, I really would love to work long term with the freelancer, but the freelancer are really skeptical if they see something like I would have like enjoy like a long-term cooperation, especially when they're at a certain level of like like, I mean, in the developer part, they really good ones. They have always just like short projects, and they want to like next, I want to do something else, and it's really hard to commit them for like a super long period when it goes over like 12 months. Of course, I think it varies totally if it's like in the fields of marketing, at least in the tech. In the field of like tech and like developers, I can just say that that's like even harder to find freelancers who are like really committed for a long time.
Yeah,
maybe I mean we can ask Holger, what would you say, like when you have already like a long journey of freelancing, how did you select the project and why? Yeah,
as you said, so I'm a huge fan of coming in, solve a particular issue, and then go, but not go in the sense of how Cartman would say it, but more in the sense of, okay, this works now, this is how it works, and if you need me again, just give me a call, and then I can look at this. And so develop this kind of long-term relationship versus long-term engagement, if this makes sense. But at the same time, I see from what I see and from what I learned from discussions I had with other freelancers, especially when you get into product development, into project management and all these kind of things, there is usually at least with the people I've spoke to, they were usually more interested in seeing the whole project evolve and be on its side for a longer period. So where they say, okay, there is a goal which might be much further in the future than with technology, where you say, okay, I need to stick with the example, a new API to be accessible for a app or for another platform, right? So it's like it's smallish. It's small. I should be careful with these kind of terms, but let's call it small. A small piece of work, and then I do this, and then I can go on and still do good work. And what at the same time for me is also I see the benefits of seeing the first steps of the baby, and this is why I like to transfer towards the I want to come in, support companies, and build like sub projects or projects contributing to the company's goal or my client's goal. So this way you have it's in Germany with this whole deemed employment and yada 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 thing it's a whole complete different discussion as well. But it's like I can still see, touch, feel the thing we build and support my client and bring my client further on. And this can take like half a year, and then we go on, but still have kind of an ongoing maintenance, for example, because this is something which stands for itself. But yeah, it is. Especially when I look into, say, medium-sized companies, especially in Germany, they still have this romantic view of someone joins the company and then he gets a kid, and then this kid comes in for doing little practical things, and then it makes an apprenticeship, and then when daddy or mommy go into retirement, the kid takes over. It's not that way anymore, sadly. So it's kind of finding this midway and this path in the middle, and having people with me or with me as a company for long-term, say permanent employees, for reasons. I know really good people who could make loads of money when they would do what they currently do just as a self-employed, but they don't want to, and this is fine, right? And at the same time, there are people who are doing the freelance thing, and they definitely shouldn't. So that it's always a spectrum, and having this mixture and having this flexibility of freelancers and still have a core, which and I love how you pointed to the company culture, Tom, to actually have a company culture evolve and develop. And then when freelancers come in or any kind of external support comes in, you feel this, you see this, you can touch this, and then they get sucked in, and then everything works. Whereas if you have like 65-70% freelancers, or God beware, but like 100%, and I've seen this kind of constellations as well. And this is usually, interestingly, most of the freelancers I've spoken to who were part of a team which was consistent of freelancers only, they couldn't run away as fast as they wanted to, because it was a mess. It's like you lose focus. No one is really kind of taking over the control in the sense of we want to go there, but it's more like you have like these 5, 6, 7, or however large it is, interests, and they pull this project into all directions, but not into one direction.
Yeah,
super interesting. Holger, how did you? Okay, so you said you prefer having a trusted relationship and a long relationship rather than long engagements. How did you build them at the very beginning? Did you already have some before you became freelancer? Or I'm just curious.
Interestingly, I started doing this unconsciously, and this is the one piece of advice. If you want to take this one thing out of this talk from me, this is network the hell out of it. And it might be that you go out actively and look for networking events and doing networking, or just be nice to each other and speak with each other. It doesn't need to be in person. You can do this on Slack. You can do this via Zoom, or you can do this in the kitchen. no matter what, but speak with people, be nice, don't burn the bridges, definitely not. Many inputs I get, and also the kind of my backbone for when I have any kind of questions or when I need support is still based on my contacts I build, sometimes even early on. And so now I'm doing this more consciously. So I'll go out, build networks, and so I get it's like this thing of it's not being famous, but it's more like, okay, when the name Holger is somewhere in the discussion, it's like, okay, they know me then. And or I get like these tips of, okay, go over there, speak with this guy or this person, and then see it from there. And the other thing is my very first client, direct client. He's a good friend of mine, and we are still in contact. And we both do like marketing for each other. And he knows when whatever comes up, he can ask me, and it's going on. So this is what I mean with networking. And then the best experiences I had were so far via Uplink and via another network of freelancers, because these kind of the projects I get over there or the contacts I get there, it's like the Uplink and the other one are just used to deal with freelancers. So it's like we all know we are all grown-ups. We can ask questions without having the fear of getting like laughed at or something. And I don't have to have a bad conscience because I had a project from somewhere else and then I come back, but I can still ask questions for this project. So it's like, and this way I started to build slowly but steadily a network and a connection pool, and then having this kind of good relationships, and plus like being active in the communities. This is again my bubble, which is currently very techy when it comes to programming, and I go more and more towards the business part, which is completely different beast, but they have very few intersections. But in the tech side is being active in the communities of the technology you enjoy, and this is the interesting bit. If you enjoy the tech you do, join the communities, meetups, webinars, write articles, or help out to publish articles for others. So I'm active into advent calendars, and so kind of just publishing things and getting in touch with others, and again creating a network. This helps a lot. Does this answer the question?
Absolutely.
All right.
Sure. So maybe come back to one point we already talked about shortly, and also it's getting a bit to the question that someone of the community asked regarding like the recruitment strategy. First, maybe starting also when you build the team of like in the fields of like business development. I feel like especially in that field where also I'm kind of coming from, often the strategy of companies is they have a few, like really very, very few senior people, and then they just hire like non-stop young people directly from university, and have the problem that it's like really fluctuating a lot. People start doing like business development or even like sales with like acquiring new clients, and then after a few months they realize, oh, it's not the right thing for me, and then it's so hard to get like new people. And I feel especially in that field, it's really, what I can tell from clients and also from my own experience, hard to get like not high qualified, but people, of course, also high qualified, but people with a lot of experience who have a real idea and how to bring the business to the next level. Because often in that field, I feel like the really top talent, they start founding something by themselves and are hardly to find and get committed to build like a whole company that is not ours, but theirs, right?
Was that for me? Sorry.
No worries. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to get commitment basically sometimes from customers, but also from investors and partners. So what you ultimately need to do is be very clear on your mission of what you want to do. So really kind of being very clear on where you want to go. And of course, you might be surprised along the way, and it would be a pity to kind of close you off to these opportunities, because maybe on the way you find that something else is much more interesting. But being very clear on where you're heading is, I think the key. And when we talk about investors, for example, like all the existing investors over time have stayed on for the follow-on rounds, just because we basically fulfilled the promises that we made. And so it's really about trust, I would say. So that was key at the beginning. With partners as well, with partners, for example, from another side, it's also about trust, but it's also about creating a mutually beneficial relationship from the very beginning. Otherwise, it's just not very worth it for both sides. Easier said than done, especially on partnership side. So when we started, for example, in Germany, it was a challenge because we knew, okay, we were not that big in Germany yet. So like, what do you do? Right, and how do you play that card? So it was really about convincing them about our plans in Germany and so on, in order that it would be worth it for them. And then it's kind of a knockover effect. So once you have the first one, then it's easier. It's really about building these trust bridges, and to kind of be able to signal to customers, partners, investors, okay, this is what we have, and okay, if that partner is on board, then it looks serious and so on. So especially in Germany, to be honest, so German customers, potential customers are still like sometimes not very trusting in new solutions, especially when it comes to your money and the money of your company. So like the questions that we get a lot is about, okay, but will you survive the next few months? You know, like, what is my money safe? Is there a deposit guarantee? Yes, there is. So those are the kind of questions that we get quite frequently. What you at the end of the day need in that case also is customer service. So be there, and we have it 7 days a week, email, chat, telephone. So that was really important for us, and it's especially important for Germany. And it's also about having these like certain partners in Germany to be able to say, oh yeah, if they cooperate with Qonto, then it looks all right. But it's a struggle that you will have at the very beginning, and that kind of doesn't really stop, because you're always heading for more, and basically as you saturate certain segments of the market, you move to tougher segments. So that's also what you need to realize over time.
On that question I have is, especially when you started, this might be, well, this definitely is, as you just said, with partners, but also for talents, to find people, because this is what I see, and what I see in the groups I'm with, is like, it's already hard to find talent, and then finding someone who would fit the bill, but then convincing him or her to join a small culture, as you would say in Germany. A small, really small no one. So how did you handle this, or do you remember something? How you approached this?
So I think at the very beginning, the previous experience of the founders helped in recruiting their first people. So not only did they have a network already of people that they could ask, and where they knew, okay, that person is good, might be interested, and so there was already an existing relationship. At the same time, to be honest, it sounds really stupid, but because they had certain names in their CV and so on, it was probably easier to convince certain people as well, because there is a signaling there. I think nowadays it's a bit outdated, but still it exists and it helps with recruiting. Similarly in Germany, so it's really about also convincing candidates, okay, this is a top team. You will join a top team, and basically we will make it work. And even if it doesn't work out in the end, it's not the end, because you will learn a ton, because you'll get to work with great people. So that's really what it was about. And yeah, I think in terms of the background of the founders helped at the very beginning, I have to say. And then there's again a knock-on effect as well. So you at the same time, I have to say what's I've seen recently also with friends who started startups as well. It's really more from a mission perspective as well. So I feel like that's even more important nowadays. So there's two that I see a lot. One is climate change. So what do you do about climate change is a question that we get asked, but also where people specifically look to say, okay, I want to tackle climate change and I want to put my energy in the next few years or my professional life in this. And the other one is maybe something like diversity, looking at, okay, how can I contribute to, or how can I work in a diverse culture? How diverse is the company that I work with? Basically, diversity of opinion, of backgrounds, and so on. And the second thing is probably also on kind of increasing and strengthening that in Germany and in other countries as well. So really the mission card, if I want to say, but the mission statement is really important in the hiring process as well. So the more you have that, the easier I think it also is to hire people. Yeah. In our case, even though it doesn't sound like it at the very beginning, but fintech is super exciting because every company needs it, and we get to work with a variety of industries, companies. So that's super exciting. And it's really about enabling a lot of different people who are traditionally underserved in the market, because for traditional banks, it's super hard to basically serve freelancers basically at a cost income ratio that's good for them. So because they have legacy infrastructure and so on. So for us, it's possible. And basically that's also what we want to do. We want to provide the finance solution that all businesses love. And we want to energize your companies. So basically give you the time to focus on what really matters. And I think that's a worthwhile statement in that sense. Yeah. Of course, if someone specifically wants to work on climate change, it's hard. It's hard to convince them that we will be the one company that drives it forward the most.
But then it needs to be often in the NGO, right? Like when you have like that high goals, I guess.
Yeah.
At least like just that goal,
change.
and it's your main goal, I guess.
Yeah.
Sure, and I don't know if you know that, but Dominic was asking what kind of tools do you use to find like fitting talent? Do you know that? Do you mostly reach out to candidates via active search and social media, or do you use other platforms? What would you say is like the most successful? I think it probably also depends a lot about the field. I mean, it's different to find IT freelancers than business development managers, for example. But what would you say?
So we use Lever to coordinate candidates and to organize job postings and so on. Externally to find candidates, it really depends on the positions. Like for the tech team, we have kind of different people specializing in it, and for the growth team, we have others. We've tried different things. I think the only two things that our biggest channel is referral. So that really like converts usually really well. Of course, you need to be careful that it's not kind of becoming just a paternal structure in a way. And the second thing is, having recruiters and actively reaching out to candidates, because at the end of the day, depending on the position, it's really a numbers game. and it's a timing game as well. So we've seen candidates that were not interested, but then 2 weeks later they are interested. So it's really difficult sometimes, so I don't have this one match code tool, unfortunately. But if you have it, please show it to me.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think the whole market just changed. When I think about myself, even like after studies, I never applied actively for a job with sending a CV or something. It's just like recruiters reaching out. And I feel like also it's nice because the barrier is like much lower, and you can also attract candidates who are like maybe currently in a position they're okay, but they're, oh, maybe I would like to change, and then they got an amazing offer via LinkedIn, and then you can just easily have a call with a recruiter, and then you get kind of convinced. And I think it's much easier than, because you can reach out to that kind of people as well, and not just ones who are like actively applying for jobs and looking where all the jobs are posted on job posting.
Do you use external recruiting agencies, or do you have your own department of recruiters? Asking for a friend.
We usually we try to do it with our own, but we're open for some roles if it's difficult to fill. We also use external ones.
The real reason I'm asking is because I think if you have internal recruiting, it's a complete different quote unquote beast than using external recruiters. It's the incentive behind it is different, and the way candidates get approached is different. I can only tell from the receiving side, but this is why I was interested in that. And
interesting.
Okay,
what is different?
It's the internal ones. They at least from the few mailings I get, they are usually more targeted, more spot on, and more. They feel more approachable, whereas the external ones, it's this more of the. It usually feels spammy. It just like I open it and I can smell it. It's just this mass emailing. I have this ideal job for you, and then the best ones are where my name isn't correct and the technology stack doesn't even get close to it. But anyways, it's not, I didn't want to get into this, but no, it's it feels like the internal recruiters, they usually do their jobs really well. In looking behind the profile, or at least looking into the profile and finding something to connect to, and then kind of approaching a bit differently rather than this is the best one, you want me, take this, buy now, and don't wait 24 hours. There's another question.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like when it comes to the early stage, where you have paying customers before you started your startup, or only people who were interested, or was it just based on a potential market vision? I don't get the question like 100%.
Yeah.
I think this is about if you had paying customers before you started. Or if you already knew that people are interested, and how you. I think this is. If Sören, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is about how you measure the interest in what you're trying to build. So essentially, getting the what's the word? You know what I mean. You know that you're after the right thing.
Yeah, I think this is then for me. So paying clients. So we had at the very beginning a free plan. So before we started, no paying clients, no clients at all. But then when we started with a free plan, basically a freemium model, but we very quickly changed. And I think that's a difference to many other startups. So we started with free plans, so 9, 29, and 99 euros per month. And we did that quite early. And many of our competitors changed that over time. So I think Penta did it last year in Germany. They changed. They don't have a free plan anymore. But yeah, I think it was an important part of our strategy because we realized, okay, if we do freemium, it's really like we're lying to ourselves, and we want also to attract the right customers. So I think what also helped is people in France were really used to paying a lot. So it was more to traditional banks. So it was really about communicating, hey, but there's no hidden fees. So it's €9, but there's no, hidden fees that you get that you don't even realize when you have the traditional banks. So it's more of a communication challenge. And then over time, we adapted it last year again. So we now have 6 plans, and we kind of differentiate between solo and teams because we offer even more functionality for teams, basically inviting all of your team members, have different roles, virtual cards, physical cards for them. You can put the budget in, approval flows, and so on. So that's really, really helpful. But regarding paying clients, it's interesting because I think that's where many startups and scale-ups lie to themselves. So you might have a big client base, but the percentage of paying customers might be low. Your retention rates are not great. So you really need to look at all these things.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So maybe coming to one last bigger kind of topic, we're already running out of time, but I think that's like very interesting for many of them when it comes to like the collaboration with investors or like venture capital in general. Can you say like a bit about like the strategy, or what are the main kind of criteria how you select in collaborating with someone for like such a long time?
Yeah, in the investor relationship, you're saying?
Yeah.
Like the long-term investor relationship? Yeah, I mean, nowadays, I think like I'm not talking to the investors. That's the co-founders do that. But what they did tell me is that nowadays VC investors are really not involved operationally unless you want them to. So it's like they can help you, they can connect you, but it's really not that case. And usually if a VC tells you, yeah, we're an operational VC, it's still not as operational as you might like when you attract these kind of VCs. So that's what you need to realize. So usually your relationship is quarterly in terms of reporting. And then it's if you have certain challenges, issues, contacts that you need. So like, for example, not being able to get through to that one company that you need, but the VC can help you. So that's really helpful. And I think in general, we're really happy to have them on board and to give them to confirm the trust that they gave us, and leverage the expertise whenever we need. But it's not like they look over our shoulders every day. And I think that really helped us as well. Yeah.
That's so interesting. I thought kind of it's the other way around, and I don't know why, but still in my mind, it's like that they're really like playing a much bigger impact that you described it.
Yeah, like I said, it's when you need it, right? But also you need to find your own way and to define it there in order to be credible with your mission and your way forward. You really need to find your own way. And if you don't do that and you just listen to other people, then these people at some point don't trust you either.
Yeah, agree. So I think there's like one last question. How do best recruit when you are solo and expanding? I think it maybe get kind of your point, Holger, in the beginning when you were kind of alone and then started, oh, maybe I should do a business and I should get some more people in the boat. I kind of can already imagine like the answer there, but tell us, like, what do you think, like, what's the best approach?
It's speak with people. It's like You would be surprised if you ask within your already existing network. You will find people and have a look, and don't be too. If you look at job descriptions, they are large wishing lists, and especially at the beginning, there needs to be, in my mind, and for me, there needs to be some kind of flexibility in there. And I'm still having this in front of me, but this will happen this year. But I know of other company owners who started hiring, and it's like you have to go out. It's you can't compete with any kind of AdWords on larger sites. You might want to try maybe smaller. What's the term for it? Like in your local newspaper or something. It's like, as long as you don't pay for it, it's fine. But there's really just be vocal about it. Go out, tweet, write on LinkedIn, speak with your network, ask around in your family, and just listen careful and be clear on who you need, in the sense of where is the position, or what's the kind of work you either can't do or you don't want to do anymore, and then start from there. And also start as early as possible. This sounds a bit weird, but if you feel the pain of needing someone, it's close to too late to hire someone, because you won't find someone straight away. So finding this kind of balance between when to start hiring and when to start to hire more, and finding out who you need and being a bit more flexible. I think this is key. And especially one guy I have in mind, he is happy. He's complaining a lot, but this is more of venting and kind of getting into this kind of growth pain you have at the very beginning, and you get used to handing things over and having other people doing the jobs you did before. But yeah, so definitely networking.
Okay, great. So maybe now one last word when it kind of comes to an end, when we talk about like best and worst practices. Maybe you both can figure out like one point that worked out like much better than expected, or something where you thought, oh, that would be like the strategy to go, and then it turned out completely different.
Oh boy. What I learned, thankfully, before I hit the pay button was, don't get lost in. I need to have these big ads in Google, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and be it for finding someone, or be it for finding customers. So finding someone to work who works with you, or finding someone who pays you. Is there are so many things I can do, or I have to do, before I even can think about advertisement. That this is definitely something. This is one of the big learnings, and a good practice is it has this kind of a bad taste at the moment, because a lot of people do some weird things with it, but mindset is something which helps me currently a lot in getting better and seeing things clearer and getting less nervous and being a bit more focused, and not a bit more, but a lot more focused. And I think this is much more important than having these kind of status symbols, like having a big car outside with your logo on it and going out and advertise everywhere. And now it's like it's more about know what you want. And I get to know more and more what I really want, what I'm after, and then it gets easier. I think these are the two things. Don't overdo it. Don't go in big because others tell you, or you think you need to. And the other side is like, get to know yourself better and get your mind into the right setting. How about you, Tom?
So from a Team Germany side, I think one thing that really worked out for us was supporting founders in their company creation process. So it was something where we really had an MVP at the beginning and were really careful because we didn't have the resources from the central teams yet to implement like a dedicated onboarding flow. But it really worked out for us, and we were able to show, okay, this really worked. We were able to convince everyone, okay, let's work on this. It makes up a third of our new customers, so that's really happy. Really glad we did that. I think from a personal perspective, it's really about the importance of having rituals as a team, but also to put the focus on learning and kind of to stop and see. So like instead of at the beginning, it was a bit counterintuitive to me, but really taking the time and stopping and seeing, okay, why did this not work? And then really look deep into it, like asking why, really helps us on a day-to-day basis, because we as a team then get better, especially when we work with other teams within Qonto. So I think that was learning how powerful that was really a learning.
Great. So thank you so much. If there are like no further question, I think that was like a super nice ending. In general, I can say we as Uplink, we also have like a smooth, a nice deal with Qonto. So it means our members get like 4 months the basic plan for free, and for 2 months like the essential plan. And everyone who is that kind and will provide us some feedback in the survey I'm posting now gets a €10 Vault voucher. So yeah, so maybe after the webinar you want to get some nice food, feel free to participate in this survey. Thank you so much. Then I wish you a great evening and hope to see you soon.
Likewise, thank you so much.
Sure, bye.